Every once in a while, a video game will come along and blow everything else out of the water. It will be like the ground is slipping away from you and all that exists is this game, an all-consuming experience that will hoover up your free time and make a mockery of efforts to try and break free from its grasp. Hell, games like this can even go so far as to change the very industry around them, to the point that any other game that even swims in its waters are chastised as never being anywhere near as good. Think of it like when I started working here. I came in and I raised the bar so high, now the poor old others like Josh and Ash and all the other forgettable crew have to use a ladder to even touch that bar. I kid, of course. I love them all. With this in mind, I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video games so good that they ruin genres. But before I begin, I'm not saying that these games are perfect. As in life, very few things are, but that didn't stop these titles from claiming the hearts of millions of people the world over. And with good reason. Hey guys, just before we begin, I want to quickly tell you about today's list sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Now, Raid is a new free-to-play RPG that is growing faster than my hairline receded when I was 19, and that is bloody fast. In fact, the game has already amassed over 10 million players, and you can totally see why. Great graphics, 13 spectacular locations, PvP arena battles, an amazing storyline, and over 400 heroes to collect and customize. I mean, just check out the details on these champions. There's something for everyone in Raid, with major updates planned over the next 6 months. Right now, there's a new faction, a new tag team arena feature, and even a new clan boss to take on alongside your clanmates. It's also got over 300,000 player ratings and has a near perfect score on the Play Store. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click on our special link, and you will get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to start your journey. Good luck, and I'll see you out there. Number 10, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. The very first Uncharted may have been a solid PS3 launch title, but it was actually a relatively modest and unrefined start for what is now Naughty Dog's flagship AAA franchise. Now, that is not to say that it was in any way bad, it just felt like it needed a sequel to truly get the motor running at full speed. And boy, what a sequel Uncharted 2 was. This was to video games what Jaws was to the film industry. It destroyed the competition and dove into the deep end with action set pieces that were literally breathtaking. The cinematic thrills this game offered were unprecedented, and anyone claiming this to be just Dude Raider were immediately silenced. In fact, so good was this style of gaming that Tomb Raider pretty much ripped it off with its reboots, both pretty successfully, I might add. Still though, with this insane budget and focus on action, Uncharted dominated the charts. In fact, it did so well that when the sequels came around, people kept on comparing it to Uncharted 2, saying that that was the most refined the series had ever been without overindulging. Even a decade later, it's still seen as the king. Number 9, Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 represented a major creative risk for Capcom, as while Resi 3 had ushered in a more action-oriented style for the series, Resi 4 was literally going to reinvent the dynamic of the franchise with its over-the-shoulder camera, a deep upgrade system, and the phasing out of zombies in favour of new, smarter enemies. In fact, when you put it like that, it's almost like a completely different game, but what a game, as Resi 4 presented a major achievement for Capcom, reaching a new and untapped action-focused market and setting the benchmark for others and even its own series. Nearly every moment in the game feels like it's being crafted with the enjoyment of the player in mind. And it's a wonder that a game about making Leon feel overwhelmed by the events is still able to deliver this much ass-kicking. What was classed as a survival horror was rewritten by this game, and even third-person shooters began to take note as well. Number 8, Burnout Paradise. Paradise was the last mainline entry into the Burnout series before developer Criterion Games screeched to a halt thanks to EA stuffing them into a garage. "You can't do that," cried the public. "Criterion are like your mum in that they excel in burning through rubbers, taking shunts in the rear and exploding bangers. Let them create." That's what the public was saying at least, and also that's my one per list. However, at least Burnout Paradise was an absolute banger in terms that it was insanely good and introduced open-world online racing to the series for the very first time. In fact, it did such a spectacular job that no other game, not even the Forza Horizon series, has been quite able to top it. Thankfully, we'll always have the remastered version, which honestly is still so much fun to this day that you wonder why anyone else even bothers. Maybe one day we'll see that there's money in taking the old girl out for a spin, and if EA loves one thing above all else, it's money, right? Number 7, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The Witcher 3 is often cited as one of the greatest games, and say it with me kids, of all time! And for damn good reason. It's a game that's so committed to delivering those involved with a satisfying and emotional experience that it's astonishing. A game where the side quests have more depth to it than entire mainstream RPGs, and that is saying nothing of the amazing character development within. In fact, going from this game to almost anything else makes them feel shallow, like you're simply treading water or doing a ton of busy work for the sake of padding. You're doing yourself a disservice if you haven't poured dozens of hours into this game beyond, and it honestly feels, to me at least, the same as when I booted up Final Fantasy VII for the first time, a lived-in world with a huge story that simply could not be ignored. Number 6, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Now say what you will about the franchise as a whole, but there is a reason why it is so pervasive today. It speaks to the arcade twitchy demon in us all, and it just wants constant adrenaline and feedback at all times. And while the early Call of Duty games were phenomenal in their online capacities, it was Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare that probably showcases the series at full strength. For starters, its ultra-immersive cinematic campaign kickstarted a trend of Me Too imitators, not least within its own series, which saw endless shock, twist, death seep into the shooters, almost to a cartoonish level in fact. The online mode introduced the leveling and progression mechanics that we know today and gave players the incentive to actually stick with the game beyond its sheer thrills. The cocktail of loadout customization and wickedly quick gameplay saw Modern Warfare shoot to the tops of sales charts the world over, and it's an experience that even its own franchise has been trying to emulate since. And if you disagree with me, I will 1v1 you on shipment. That is serious stuff. Number 5, Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock. Honest to God, this game defined my time at university, with every moment not spent on revising, learning how to chart my way through songs like Impulse by an Endless Sporadic. God, that track is a banger. And Activision knew, those cheeky little whippets, they knew exactly how to hook their audience. They took everything that made the first 2 games so popular and dialed it up to 11 with Legends of Rock. The soundtrack was swollen with massive hits, the bonus songs deliciously decadent, tracks that you'd never likely come across, and the ability to download new song packs meant that content was being served up piping hot to the pluck-happy player base. Yet it was also its own downfall, as while the series would go on to achieve success in games like Guitar Hero Metallica and with their World Tour installment adding in drums, this was the point of no return, as the experience ushered in a flood of music games to the market, each adding to the pile of plastic and drained the lake of songs that we'd heard before. Money might have come easily to the likes of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, but the market was so bloated that it held no other possibility other than bottoming out. Still though, for a while, the genre was as good as it could have ever been, and Warriors of Rock was carved forever into the genre's Mount Rushmore. Number 4, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. Though its narrative was actually relatively hit and miss, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain nevertheless raised the bar for not only the open-world third-person shooter genre, but the stealth genre as a whole. Thanks to the utterly ridiculous array of toys made available to the player, from full-on balloons to airstrikes, decoys, vehicles, and all types of the typical guns, experimentation is a pure joy, no matter the repetitious nature of the missions, making MGS5 in many ways the definitive sandbox title. It's a game that caters to all playstyles equally well, proving a rare democratic offering that doesn't make you feel like a compromise in any way. And when you've got an absolutely batty story accompanying it, MGS5 proves that you don't need to be serious to do stealth well, something that a lot of po-faced imitators have yet to capitalize on. Number 3, Half-Life 2. Valve's 1998 original innovated the FPS genre in so many ways, and the weight of expectation on its follow-up was practically impossible to meet. And yet, they actually bloody did it. To call Half-Life 2 a mere masterpiece is to understate the case quite a bit. In a landscape that has increasingly devalued FPS games that have lengthy, substantial campaigns, Half-Life 2 remains one of the last true, full-fat blockbuster single-player shooters of its kind. Ramping up the expertly crafted set pieces, outfitting the player with some outstanding weaponry and vehicles, and introducing a killer cast of new characters while soaking in pure atmosphere from the first level to last, Half-Life remains one of, if not the best single-player FPS to this day. Sorry, I was getting a bit intense there. Not that there haven't been challengers to the throne, but there does seem to be less of a single-player focus in FPS games as time has gone on. And while Half-Life 2 ended on a cliffhanger, it still managed to hit with more weight than entire franchises have been able to muster. Number 2, Grand Theft Auto 5. While Vice City, San Andreas and GTA 3 moved the bar ever higher for others to fail at, GTA 5 seems to have found a sweet spot for the entire series, as it's managed to make nearly every action fun. The driving physics were amazing, the shooting felt the most balanced it had ever been, and the lush landscape was rife with details to explore even years down the line. Plus, we got the introduction of GTA Online, which, while having a rocky launch, is an incredible achievement that sees millions of players crash, smash, and slash every single day. Throw in a deliciously entertaining cinematic story and you have a game that continues to smash sales milestones. And sure, you could easily exchange Red Dead Redemption 2 for this entry because that game is utterly phenomenal, so it's down to you whether you prefer your wild, wild westerns or, well, equally wild concrete jungles. And number 1, Astrobot Rescue Mission. And now for something a little different, a VR game. If you've spent much time in virtual reality, you'll likely have played your fair share of third-person platformers, and let's be honest, most of them tend to blur together a little too eagerly. But not Astrobot Rescue Mission, no way. It's not an exaggeration to say, as many have, that PSVR exclusive Astrobot is the VR medium's Mario 64 moment. It represents a Rubicon being crossed, a game literally being changed, with the added dimension and interactivity creating a more tactile platform experience than ever before. Now, Astrobot is separated from other VR platformers for several reasons. First and foremost, it places a huge emphasis on the interactivity between yourself and the adorable titular hero. Then add in the VR tracking that is out of this world and level design that is actually genuinely inspired, and it is a wonder why more people aren't banging on about this title. It's not challenging as such, but it's an experience which is so utterly wholesome that it imbues you with a desire to see this tone in every other game. It really is that good. And there we go, those were 10 video games so good they ruined genres. I hope that you enjoyed that, my friends. Please let me know down in the comments what you thought about it, as well as any other entries that you'd like to add to this list, because I might do a commentator's edition further down the line. But before you go and hopefully have a fantastic day, I just want to say one thing. None of us right here listening to this are defined by genres. None of us are set in stone. We are constantly changing creatures, and that is a great thing. You can learn from your mistakes, you can learn from your victories, but more importantly, try and live every single day like you are expanding yourself in some way, be it your mind, your body, or anything else. Because there's nothing worse than feeling limited. And if you feel limited by something, be it social pressures, be it work commitments, be it anything, remember, you can speak to people about that, exercise your frustrations, get them out in the open, because trust me, people care way more than you might think, and you might find that they're there to offer a helping hand. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ over on Twitter. I hope you have a bloody good day, my friends, because you have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!